Okay guys, for today's video, it's something that I actually went back and forth on filming because it was so late, but I decided to just go ahead and do it. I'm going to be doing my 2021 palette ranking. Before we get into it, you may be able to see I dyed my hair. I wanted to go brown, but like a red brown, and it turned out very red, but I'm really liking it so far. What do you think? And for today's video, I have 47 palettes to talk about, so I'm going to be very brief. For the ones I don't have, I'm going to put pictures on the screen. If you have questions about any palette in particular, just let me know down below. I have reviewed all of these in monthly makeup rankings, so I'll have that playlist linked because I will give more detail there, but we're just going to be quick and going. I'm going to try to have all the palettes listed down below. I probably won't put the name on the screen for all of them because it's a lot of editing for me to do, especially we're about to go on a trip, so we'll see. Anyway. Number 47, the e.l.f. Mint to Be Quad. This is one that was all mints, not the like half neutral one. And the shimmer shades felt dry and flaky, and that's how they looked on the eye. And the mattes did not blend well. 46 is the Ofra Galaxy palette, which was all purples. The shimmer shade is the same formula as their highlighter, so that one was amazing, but the other shades I felt like just blended into one another, needed to be built up a lot, which is not uncommon for matte purples, especially ones that are a little bit lighter. Then we have 45 Aura and Out, which was a pastel palette that was like greens and blues. There were a lot of mattes with glitter in there, which is a finish that you guys know I hate. I did decide to depot one of the shimmery blues because it was very pretty, but the rest could just go. Next at 44 is the Miss Bliss palette, also from that same collection. This was the more peachy palette. I like peachy colors more, but this one had just the same amount, if not maybe one more, matte with shimmer in it, which is so annoying. I hate that finish, but this one ranked higher just because I would use the shades a little bit more because I love peaches. Number 43 would be the Dominique Cosmetics Lemonade palette. I didn't find the shimmers to be very pigmented. The mattes were just like fine. So I'm just not overly impressed with Dominique's formula from what I've tried so far. 42, the Dose of Colors Ice Cream Dream palette. This is an older palette. I think when it came out, it probably would have been more impressive to me, but at this stage, no, I didn't love the colors together. There were a few I really liked, and the formula is fine on them. Not incredible, but like the formula is pretty good. I just didn't love all the shades. Number 40 is the Huda Beauty Pastel Mint palette. This is probably my favorite mint palette I tried. I knew I shouldn't have purchased this one, and I did anyway, and I was right. The neutral shades I think work well. The pastels are a little patchy, and the Obsessions palettes from Huda, I just don't like them for the most part, except for the Nude Obsessions. Those are good. The rest are too iffy for me. That was the last one that I bought, and I'm gonna try to stick to not buying it anymore. 39 was the ColourPop Animal Crossing 5-Star Island Quad. The colors were very pretty, but there was a pressed glitter and a matte with shimmer. So there were 2 of the 4 shades where I hate the finish. The other colors were really nice. One of them was a really beautiful matte, like pinky coral color, but I have something similar, so I didn't need that one. It went back. Number 38 is the Ofra Samantha Marsh Life's a Draft palette. I'm very sad that I did not love this one. So it had a highlight, a blush, a bronzer. The blush and bronzer are from her duos, and I just don't love the Ofra blush and bronzer formula. I think the highlight formula is incredible. I thought that was a pretty shade, but it almost had a little bit of a gray cast on me compared to some of the other Ofra highlights that I have. So it's not something I would buy individually. And for the eyeshadows, some of them were nice, but some of the others I just found to be like lackluster in the shimmer and shine department, or need to be like really built up, or like weren't the best at blending. I just think I'm done trying Ofra shadow formula. I'm just all about their highlighters, which are going to be part of also 21 Days of Beauty. I definitely recommend you guys get those. And then at 37, we have ColourPop Menage Muah palette, which was a holiday palette from a few years ago, and I just didn't love it. It was more expensive because it had a mirror. There were several mattes with shimmers and pressed glitters, which are formulas that I despise. I shouldn't have purchased because I have similar palettes, but I really loved the looks that people were creating, and I was right. I was disappointed in it, and it's something that I knew better and definitely regretted buying. Then at number 36 is the Oh For Good To Go palette, which has a bronzer, a blush, a full-size highlight, the All of the Lights, which is 4 shades from their other popular highlighters all together, which I think is Blissful, Rodeo Drive, Pillow Talk, and Star Island, I believe. And then there were 6 shadows, I think. The shimmer shadows were the same formula as the highlighters, which meant they were super metallic. I really like those. The mattes I found to be hard to build and blend. I did not like the blush and the bronzer, so I am getting rid of that palette as well. And I would love for them to just make all of their shimmer shadows that metallic highlight formula, because it's so good. And then if they can just work on their matte formula a little bit more. Then at 35, we have the Joah Sun and Seoul Chasing the Sun palette. I thought that the mattes were not bad. They were pretty buildable and blendable. The shimmers were just a little bit dry. The darkest, more like red shimmer, I love the way that one looked on the eye. I was tempted to keep the palette for that. It also came with a highlight and 2 bronzers. I liked the highlighter. The bronzers were just okay. So that is something that I ended up decluttering. It wasn't terrible, especially for being an affordable palette, but I just wish that the shimmers were a little soft. Like I said, they were a little dry. Then I have these sort of neck and neck. At 34 is the Kaja Bento Box in Glowing Guava. And then at 33 is the Kaja Bento Box in Chocolate Dahlia. So both of those have 1 shimmer and 2 mattes. The Chocolate Dahlia shade has a very unique shimmer color. It's like a warm champagne, where the browns are a little bit more cool tone brown. And I think that they build and blend okay, but again, nothing amazing. But that shimmer is so good. I'm so tempted to keep that stack just for the shimmer. And then I actually might, I don't know, I might want to switch these, but they're, you know, they're close enough. The Glowing Guava palette, the shimmer in this one is very pretty on the eye, but it doesn't swatch as nicely. It's not like as soft. It doesn't look as shimmery and gorgeous in the swatch, but it does show up on the eye. The mattes in here, I felt like the darker matte was like a little too red, but really when you blend it out, it blends nicely. So I'm still so on the fence about keeping those, but they're not bad. I got them at TJ Maxx, so for that price for sure, but I will not buy any more. I just feel like the mattes could be a little bit more buildable and blendable, at least for me. Then at 32, we have the Artist Couture Ethereal Bloom palette. I was really disappointed in this one, and I purchased it even after Britt Clark and my friend Jean said that, like, not that good, and I bought it anyway. The mattes I thought were pretty nice. The shimmers were very lackluster. They were really hard, kind of flaky again, which was such a bummer because the mattes were so good. So if I could get that palette half off, possibly, but I don't want a palette where like I really have to fool with the other half. Next at 31, we have the Morphe Jaclyn Hill Volume 2 palette. I knew I should not have purchased this one. It was gonna be way too big to store, which means I wouldn't reach for it. And that was true. I also was not in love with the formula. I did make a bright all matte look. I really liked it. And actually it was the more like wearable look where I wasn't as impressed with it. I felt like it really needed to be built up, which surprised me based on the formula of the first one. But if that was a smaller palette, I think I would have liked it more. It was just way too big and just not necessary for me to have. Now we're getting into mostly the palettes that I have. So for number 30, we have this Anastasia Summer Quad that has 2 shimmers and 2 mattes. I really like the shimmers in here, especially this color here. This one I actually liked it better on the eye than I thought that I would, but these 2 mattes are just an odd undertone to them and I don't like them. This is not quite mustard enough. It's almost like a cool tone mustard. And this, I don't know, something about those are off. So I want to play with this more, but it's very possible that I might just put the shimmers in my Anastasia single palette and get rid of the mattes. So that's a bit of a bummer. Again, formula is great. It's just the color of those 2 that I'm just not obsessed with. Then at number 29, surprisingly, we we have a Natasha Denona palette. This was a BoxyCharm exclusive. It is the Peak palette, so all of these shades came from other palettes. And I think it's just because there's 4 mattes and 1 shimmer. I love the shimmer. This matte is one I really wanted, and it actually shows up darker on the eye, which I don't love. And also a little bit more orange, where I thought it was a little bit more salmon here. So I wasn't in love with how that translated. This, I would like it to be like a little bit lighter for me because I can't actually use it like a setting shade or to clean up, because it just ends up being a little darker and peachier than my skin tone. These are pigmented, they blend nicely. Definitely have all of these shades in other palettes. I didn't need this, I was just excited for the good price. I'm not going to declutter it though, definitely not at least right now. I really like the shimmer shade. I can get pretty looks, but it's like I don't need these eyeshadows because they're very basic, specifically from Natasha Denona. At 28, we have the Juvia's Place Blushed Rose palette. And the reason I ranked that higher than the Peak is because formula's pretty good, but the shades I think are a little bit more different, a little prettier than the Peak palette, but I've actually decluttered Blushed Rose. I just need to stop trying to make Juvia's Place work for me because something about the shadows are just not my favorite for the most part. Now the Bronze Rustic palette, you'll see in a little bit, I really love that one. So I think that the shades like blend and build fine. I was really excited for this palette, but something about the tones of the shades in person and on me were a little bit different than what I was hoping for, but it performs well. Great price. I do recommend it, just not what I was hoping for from the palette. Also, sorry that there's nail polish missing from here. I meant to paint it before this video, but I'm running up on Landon's bedtime, so I'm trying to hurry up here. Next, for number 27, unfortunately, is the Persona Identity 1 palette. And I think that these are very nice and pigmented. They perform really well. The mattes are very pigmented and blendable. The shimmers I think maybe could be a little bit more metallic, but they do have like a nice thickness to them. They apply nicely, blend nicely. It's just like, I'm not seeing like 1 or 2 shades in particular. I'm like, wow, I'm in love with that shade. I'm gonna reach for this palette for those shades. So that's a bit of a bummer. It's definitely a great formula. I think if you like this color story, you should definitely get it. Just for me, not something that I'm reaching for all the time, but formula is great. Next, for number 26 is this Milani All-Inclusive Face and Eye palette in the light to medium shade. This is supposed to be like a dupe of the Charlotte Tilbury palette. So you have highlight, bronzer, shimmer blush, matte blush, 3 eyeshadows. I really like the matte blush and the eyeshadows. So I actually think that these are like a little too warm. I think that these more should have been neutral tones for it to be for a light medium palette, because they just seem to like not exactly go with the rest of it. The shimmer blush I think is fine. The matte blush I really like, and like I said, I really do like these eyeshadows here as well. All of the matte products are rather powdery, but you know, they blend nicely. I think that I would get a lot of use out of it if it was just this. So I thought about decluttering this, but I do think I'm going to keep it for now. And I think that the deeper version looks really beautiful. And then for number 25, we have a quad. This is the ColourPop Bold in the Aries quad. I do like the matte shades. Again, I was hoping this one would be a little bit more salmony. It reminds me of the one in the Peak palette, but this dark brown actually does have some more red tones in it, which I wasn't expecting and I like. And for it being a dark color, that did actually blend nicely. I ended up liking this shimmer. This one, not as much. It's very much like NARS Orgasm X. And these are just a little bit more dry than I was hoping for. And honestly, it made me feel like this was like ColourPop's single shadow formula, which is not my favorite. I feel like the singles and the palettes perform differently, although I haven't purchased just a single in a while, or not a shimmer single. So it's fine, but I'm not gonna buy any more from that collection. And I did buy that one full price. Then number 24 is the Glamlite Ice Cream Dream palette. This was just okay when I used it. First off, I was really trying to find a color combo that could work for me. Some of these shimmers are like wet, which is kind of weird, and then others are not, which was also weird. You know, the pastels had to be built up a little bit. I want to play around with this more for sure, but you guys know I'm just not this colorful, and I had a little bit of a hard time working with it, which is probably just my skill level. 23, we have the Natasha Denona Mini Zendo palette. This darkest shimmer I don't love because it almost just looks like a satin. It needs to be a little bit more shimmery. I almost feel like these other shimmers got some hard pan on them, which is odd and doesn't usually happen to me. I think that the other mattes are quite nice. So I do really like the shades for these four. I just don't love this one and the fact that this kind of hard panned on me. But other than that, I do think this is nice. And I'm not going to get the full size Zendo. I was hoping to be more like this, but it's a little bit different and not something I think I would get a ton of use out of. Then number 22 is the Sigma Warm Neutrals palette. I think that this performs very well. I really like Sigma palettes. You know, the mattes are very pigmented, blendable. The shimmers are nice as well. The shimmers sometimes need a little layering, but they could also be like a little more metallic for my liking. But I do think that this is a nice palette. This shade here is a matte with a little bit of glitter, which is annoying, but this is a good palette. I like it. I like it, but I have, you know, just others that I would reach for over that one color wise. At 21, I have my Rowan 1111 quad. This shade has almost completely dried out already, which is very annoying. I'll have to use some MAC Fix Plus with that. The other shades in here I think are very pretty. They looked very pretty on the eye. This is just not a formula that's for me. I prefer creams that dry down, and these don't exactly. I'm not quite cool girl enough for this like RawBeauty is, so yeah, I want to get my use out of it because it was very expensive, but I do not need any more. At number 20, we have the Sigma Magnifique palette from last holiday. I do think this one is really nice. I almost like how it's like little duos here. It is more cool tone. I really liked this color. I thought it was unique. This one is a little bit darker than I would go. This one I would just use kind of as a liner. I do think that this performs super well. It's just not my favorite color story, but I still like that. Number 19 was Natasha Denona Cranberry palette. I like the performance of these. I do like all the shades. I just try to create looks mostly using these, and I really need to add in a lot of other shades because both of these are very dark on me. They would work for outer corner, but I need something else for transition and crease. But I am really happy to finally have this one, and I did get that for a good price as well. And then number 18 is the Sigma Ambiance palette. I do really like this one as well. This marigold shade is definitely my favorite. I don't love mustard eyeshadows, and there are some more mustardy tones in here. I really like this one though. So it's a good palette. I think I will get a lot of use out of this, but there is some repetitiveness with some other palettes I have in my collection. Number 17 is the Alamar Spanglish palette. I really loved this color here, and this shade is like so me. I would love that as a blush as well. I think that the purples in here are nice. I really liked the shimmers. I actually even like this hot pink. It's just these two shades here I didn't like. This is just too cool tone to go with the rest of this palette in my opinion. And this is almost like a nacho cheese color. Just something about this needs to be like a little bit brighter maybe, or a little something else. I don't know. I just don't love those two with the rest of the palette, but performance wise is very good. I think the purples are a little bit more dry than the other ones, but again, that can happen with purples, but I'm not disappointed with it. And those two shades in particular, I just like love. Number 16 is the Pat McGrath Celestial Divinity palette. I think I would have liked last year's holiday palette a little bit more. When I look at the palette as a whole, I'm not like ooh la la, but when I look at the shades individually, I think they're very pretty. The only colors I really wouldn't use would probably be those two, and maybe because they're right beside each other makes me feel like I wouldn't use them. I think that there definitely need to be more mattes in this palette, and all of the mattes are more of like a rosy tone, which does not go with all the rest of the shimmers. I feel like if you're only going to have a couple mattes, you need to have like a mid to dark, cool, neutral, and warm matte, so that some matte can go with the, you know, the shimmers in this palette. I wish we could have had 2 full columns of mattes and then maybe the other 4 shimmer, just to give more variety, and then you could have had like 2 cool tone, 2 neutral tone, and 2 warm tone mattes. That way you would have something to go with all the shimmers in this palette. but performance wise, I think it's good. Number 15 is the Kaleidos and Angelic Nyqvist Club Nebula palette. I did create 4 looks with this palette. They were all recreations from Angelica. I think that this performs so well. I am very scared of dark colors, but these blended and built up so nicely. But I don't wear blues, I don't wear greens. The look I made with this row here is incredible. I love it so much. Even the cool tone look I really liked. It's just because I don't use blues and greens enough. I'm happy I bought this palette for Angelica and to test out this formula. I just need to make myself use this palette at least for that row, but performance wise is great. Number 14 is the Makeup by Mario Bronzy Glam palette. I like that you have 3 shimmers and a matte. I definitely don't mind pulling in other colors. You guys know I love my Anastasia, Birkin, and Bengal for go-to warm transition crease shades, and I like the variety here. You have a warm champagne, an olive, and a warm bronze. Pretty good formula, and I am happy with the discounted price I got it at. For sure, nothing super unique, but something that would be super quick and easy for me to wear with my 2 Anastasia shadows when I'm just getting ready, because those are definitely go-to shades for me. Number 13 is the M Cosmetics Magic Hour palette. I hate the packaging on these because they're so hard to open. They always mess up my nail polish. I like that her palettes have 3 shimmers and 3 mattes, because really most of what I did was like transition crease outer corner color, and I think all of these shimmers are different. I'm very happy with the performance of this palette. I definitely think it could be, you know, $5–10 cheaper than it is, but it's very good. You guys know I love my peachy colors, so that's a good one for sure. Number 12 is the Huda Beauty Mercury Retrograde palette. I think the formula in this one is so good. Her large palettes are very good. The only thing that throws me off is that it's like a half pastel, half neutrals. I tend to reach for this for the pastels and then never use the neutrals, but they're very good, very pretty. I'm definitely gonna reach for this a lot in the spring. It's a great palette, and especially it's been on sale a lot recently, so definitely get it for the sale price. Surprisingly, at number 12, we have the Juvia's Place Bronzed Rustic palette. When I looked back at my makeup of the days on Instagram from last year, the 2 looks I made with this palette were some of my absolute favorites, just because I love these kind of tones on me. And even this shade here, I just used like a really diffused amount of product with like a really feathery brush, and it worked so well. This is a great one. I'm very happy with the way that this looked on my eyes. And I do find her mattes to be like a little thinner, which I feel like thinner mattes I have a harder time blending for some reason. But her shimmers I find to be a little thick, almost a little wet, that they can be kind of creasy on me. But I really didn't have too many troubles using this palette. My camera overheated when we had 10 palettes left. I'm very proud of myself with how quickly I've been getting through this. So number 10 is the ColourPop RawBeauty Kristi at Forest Sight palette. I really like this one. I do wish that there were 1 or 2 more shimmers. I feel like if we had 4 shimmers and 8 mattes, that'd be great. Also, this darkest color does have some shimmer in it, not like glitter in this one, shimmer, and I don't like that. I feel like it could have just been a matte black or a really dark brown. But other than that, I love it. The looks that I created with these 2 shades were recreations from Kristi, and I loved it. Being darker colors, I had a little bit of issue blending these, but then when I applied them how Kristi did, I did not have as much of an issue. And I did create an all matte look, which I really liked as well. This was my favorite shade, so definitely a good one. Number 9 was the Pat McGrath Rose Decadence palette. These 3 shades here I liked a lot. These 3 are good as well, but I just love this look. These are just my tones. This one is a really pretty like pinky champagne shade. I love a coral color, and this one blended out nicely as well and has enough of a rosiness to it. Very good palette. I wish that that was permanent. It was a really nice formula and shade wise. Number 8 was the Oma Beauty Royal Heritage palette from the Coming to America collection. I love that we have 5 shimmers and 5 mattes. I love this matte the most. You guys have probably seen like similar favorite shades here. I think that this gold kind of stands out because everything else here is a little bit more pinky tone, but these are very foiled. These are very pigmented, blend out really nicely. I was very happy with the looks I created with it. And unfortunately, I used this before I started taking makeup of the days of all of my looks, but Very nice. Super happy to have that, and it was a great introduction to the brand. I would love to see them come out with more products, but definitely more palettes. Number 7 is the Natasha Denona Mini Star Palette. This one is so good. I love all of the shimmers in here. Of course, I prefer this darker teal color and the olive. You guys know I love olive shades. For these mattes, I wish that this one was not quite as cool tone, but I think the depth works nicely that way. This can work for more skin tones because people can mix these shades together if they would need to. But I wish this was a little bit more neutral to go with some of these other shades, but it's not bad. I basically just use that as a liner, but performance is very good. No hard pan type issues with that one. Number 6 is the Temptalia and Sydney Grace on the Horizon Light Palette. I really like all the shades in here except for this one. I just wouldn't wear that shade, but the rest of them I think are amazing. The purple look I did with the 2 of these and this matte, incredible. I love that so much. I also really love these 2 neutral shimmers. Such a good formula. I haven't used very many of Sydney Grace mattes, but these were very good, and the shimmers are incredible. So happy I picked up this palette. This is definitely like my pick out of the 3. Number 5 is the Huda Beauty Naughty Nude palette, and I really like this one. The shimmers in here are a little bit more on the wet side, but they look so beautiful on the eyes. This one looks incredible, very dimensional. I love the mattes in here. When I first got this palette, I thought it was gonna be a little bit more burgundy based in the packaging, but it is very warm tone. And once I started using this more in the fall, I actually liked it more than when I had planned on using it in the winter, just because of the colors I use during those seasons. But the formula is great. The mattes are a little powdery. I don't mind. I feel like it helps them be more blendable. Definitely very buildable. A great palette from Huda and my type of shades. And then at number 4, we have the ColourPop Hocus Pocus Gather Round Sisters palette. So glad I got this one. I do not like this column and this column. I would have been very happy if this was just a 9 pan with these shades. I actually like the pressed glitter in here. I found it pretty easy to work with. And the 3 looks I created with this palette, I absolutely loved. These mattes down here were not too tough to blend out. This is like a perfect kind of mustard shade for me because it's not too yellow. There's enough brown in there. These shimmers are just so good. So these 9 shades are the business. These suck. There are these 2 mattes with glitter and these 2 mattes with glitter. So 4 mattes with glitter in this palette, which is so dumb. These shimmers out here are okay, but I just don't love them. But these 9 shades and the 3 looks I made, I loved enough to rank this palette so highly. I even wore the more red tone shade to a wedding. So good. Number 3 is a mini palette that I really fell in love with. This is the Sigma Rendezvous. It's from Holiday 2020. I think you can still find this. If so, I will link it. You have 2 mattes in here and 4 shimmers, which I love. I use this as a transition crease and outer corner color with all of the looks. The look with the darkest color was fine, but these other ones here I loved so much. So a champagne, a more bronzy gold, and a coppery color. Definitely great go-to everyday looks for me. I just love a good warm tone. So this is a great mini palette that I could see myself reaching for a lot when I'm trying to just do my makeup in a hurry. Then number 2 would be the ColourPop Liz McGuire What Dreams Are Made Of palette. I used every single shade in here. I created 3 looks. I loved them all so much. I found even though these 2 mattes have glitter in them, they blended really nicely. I got over it, but I was definitely disappointed by it. The pressed glitter in here performed pretty well. Also, this color required a lot of building, which, you know, makes sense because of it being like a lighter lime shade. But I loved the looks so much. Big surprise, I love these 2 colors a lot. This was a great palette. I bought this because it was Liz McGuire, but I actually loved those 3 looks so much. And I paired it with some of the ColourPop and Cabana Life collection liners. Great. Then at number 1 was the first palette that I started using after I had Landon. And I bought this because of Emily Noel. It is the Too Faced Teddy Bear palette. I created 5 or 6 looks with this. It is so good. all of these mattes have distinctly different undertones. Even these two here, this one you can tell is more pink in it. It's rosier. I used this shade and this shade with almost every look. The shimmers in here are very foiled looking on the eyes. I feel like you can just see that all those have different undertones. This palette size-wise is a little smaller than I would like. I would like it to be, even if it was skinnier, like, I don't know, you know, the same size as their other palettes, but this is super cute. This is a great neutral palette for me because it is a little bit rosier and it's not just boring browns, but super easy every day. I loved this one so much. Woo, that was as fast as I could do it. I know it was long, but it wasn't an hour. So those are all 47 palettes that I tried this year. Very brief thoughts, but I would definitely love to hear your thoughts on these palettes down below. And I would love to hear your favorite and least favorite palette that you tried this year. We'll see how many palettes I have that I'm going to be testing in 2022. This was a lot, but I want to thank you guys so much for watching this video, even though I know this was hecka late. Hopefully you still enjoyed hearing my thoughts, and please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye guys.